It wasn't a government program. It wasn't a charity. It was a creature straight out of an almost forgotten fairy tale that kept the last ember of self-reliance alive when the entire American economy had turned to dust. This is the story of the trick that turned desperation into dinner, and it all hinged on an animal so humble most people today wouldn't look at it twice. The 1930s weren't just about stock market crashes. For millions, it was a daily grinding physics problem. How do you create something from nothing? How do you feed a family when the banks have taken your farm, the soil has blown away, and the factory gates are chained shut? This is where ingenuity became the most valuable currency. And in the rural South, the Midwest, in hollows and on hardscrabble plots, a survival blueprint from the distant past was pulled off the shelf. It was called the trickle-down livestock system, and its star player was the rabbit. Now, hold on. A rabbit? We're not talking about a cute pet here. We're talking about a four-legged, fast-breeding, hyper-efficient protein machine. This is where the genius and the grim necessity kicks in. A single doe rabbit can produce over 600 pounds of meat in a year. Let that number sit for a second. Compare it to a cow, which requires acres of land you don't have, or a pig, which needs more feed than you can spare. The rabbit required almost nothing. It ate weeds, kitchen scraps, lawn clippings. It turned literal garbage into gold standard protein. Here's the clever part, the real trick. This wasn't just about eating rabbit stew. This was about a closed-loop, survival-scale economy. A family would start with a buck and 2 does. In a matter of months, they'd have dozens. They'd eat some, sure, but crucially, they'd sell or barter the young bucks. This was the trickle-down. That small cash influx wasn't for luxuries. It was to buy a chicken. Not for the eggs, not yet. That chicken, once it grew, was traded or sold for a young piglet. The pig, fed on increasingly substantial scraps and forage, represented a leap in capital. A pig could be sold for real money, money that could buy shoes, medicine, or put a down payment on a sewing machine to start taking in mending work. The rabbit was the starter engine for an entire homestead recovery. The rabbit's utility was brutal and complete. The meat was lean and healthy. The pelts, when properly cured, could be sewn into hats, mittens, or linings for coats, clothing that meant the difference between going to school or not when the winter wind cut through thin cotton. Even the manure wasn't waste. It was cold manure, meaning it could go directly into the family garden without burning the tender plants, fueling the growth of carrots, lettuce, and greens. This created the second half of the cycle. The garden fed the rabbits fed the family and funded the farm's slow climb back to functionality. But this system demanded a psychological shift. You couldn't get sentimental. These weren't pets with names. They were units of production, meticulously managed. Breeding schedules were followed like gospel. Old or unproductive animals were culled without hesitation. Children learned anatomy by butchering and economy by calculating litter sizes. It was a hard education, but it was an education in agency. In a world where you controlled nothing, not your job, not the weather, not the global markets, you could control this hutch. You could engineer your own survival, one litter at a time. This practice had ancient roots, a throwback to medieval peasant husbandry, but in the 20th century it was formalized and promoted by county extension agents and relief manuals. They called it backyard production. It was the original small-scale sustainable agriculture movement, born not from ideology, but from sheer absolute need. It was a quiet rebellion against total dependency. While breadlines symbolized national crisis, the humble rabbit hutch in the backyard symbolized a fierce private resilience. So why did we forget? The post-war boom made efficiency king. The supermarket, with its cellophane-wrapped beef and frozen dinners, made the gritty work of raising and processing your own meat seem messy, obsolete, even distasteful. The rabbit was relegated back to the pet store or the magic show. The profound skill it represented, the ability to create a closed-loop food system in your own backyard, faded from common knowledge. But the principle remains, and that's the real takeaway. It's a masterclass in survival economics. Start with what you have, even if it's scraps. Find the asset with the fastest, most efficient return. Use every single part of it. Reinvest the profits into the next level of stability. It's a blueprint for resilience that doesn't require a fortune, just foresight and a willingness to learn from the past. The families who used this trick weren't just waiting to be saved. They were engineers of their own salvation, using the quiet, prolific, forgotten vegetable lamb to build a bridge over the deepest economic chasm of the modern age. They understood that sometimes survival doesn't roar. It multiplies quietly in the backyard, one bunny at a time. If you found this glimpse into forgotten ingenuity valuable, you're exactly why this channel exists. Legacy of Survival is all about unearthing these lost skills and the powerful mindsets behind them. Help us keep this history alive. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because next week we're diving into another desperate era and the shocking, simple device that provided light, heat and security for centuries before the light switch. Until then, stay resourceful.